The moment Harry allegedly whispered the words, "I need certainty," behind closed doors, the entire foundation of his California fairy tale reportedly began collapsing in complete silence. Because according to explosive New Palace whispers, Trevor Engelson's latest confession did not just reopen old wounds from Meghan's past, it reportedly pushed Harry toward private DNA verification talks so secretive that even senior royal aides were stunned when they first heard about them. And if this is true, then this is no longer just another royal gossip scandal. This is a marriage entering full psychological warfare while two children sit directly at the center of a storm nobody inside the monarchy knows how to contain anymore. For years, people believed Trevor was simply the forgotten ex-husband, the discarded Hollywood producer Meghan, left behind like an old chapter she no longer needed once royal doors opened in front of her. But now, people close to the situation are describing Trevor as the one ghost Meghan never truly buried. Because unlike the royal commentators, unlike palace insiders, unlike journalists guessing from outside the gates, Trevor actually lived inside Meghan's private world before the crowns, before the titles, before the billion-dollar image machine took over everything. He knew the version of Meghan nobody else was allowed to see. Because sources claim Trevor did not come forward screaming for revenge. That is what makes this entire situation darker. He reportedly spoke calmly, slowly, like a man exhausted from carrying information for years while watching the entire world build a fantasy around someone he remembers very differently. And according to whispers spreading through elite media circles in California and London, Trevor's confession centered around one specific chapter of their marriage Harry allegedly knew almost nothing about: private fertility consultations that happened years before Meghan ever entered royal life. Now suddenly people around Harry are reportedly noticing changes in him that are impossible to ignore. Friends claim he looks drained, distracted, like somebody replaying conversations in his head over and over again, trying to identify the exact moment his reality started cracking apart. One insider even claimed Harry has become obsessed with timelines lately. Dates, medical history, past interviews, old statements Meghan made publicly that now allegedly sound very different to him behind closed doors. And that is where this story reportedly becomes explosive. Because according to multiple rumors now swirling through Montecito circles, Harry quietly approached legal advisors about what private verification options even exist for someone in his position without triggering global humiliation. Think about how devastating that sounds for a second. This is not some random celebrity marriage anymore. This is a prince allegedly sitting inside a 16-bedroom mansion, privately exploring DNA verification conversations while desperately trying to avoid detonating his entire public life at the same time. And people close to Meghan reportedly sensed something was wrong almost immediately, because Harry allegedly stopped reacting emotionally during arguments that frightened her more than anger ever could. Sources claim Meghan was prepared for shouting, prepared for accusations, prepared for emotional breakdowns. What she allegedly was not prepared for was silence, cold silence. The kind of silence that comes when somebody starts investigating instead of arguing. One insider described a private confrontation between them as the iciest conversation the house has ever witnessed. Harry reportedly sat across from Meghan asking direct questions one after another while barely blinking. No yelling, no emotion, just questions. Questions about Toronto, questions about old consultations, questions about timelines, questions about why certain details from her past allegedly never surfaced until Trevor started talking. Because according to whispers, Meghan allegedly accused Harry of betraying her by even entertaining Trevor's claims. She reportedly told him the royal family had psychologically poisoned him and warned him that opening this door would destroy absolutely everything they built together. But insiders claim Harry's response reportedly chilled the room completely. He allegedly looked directly at her and said, "Then why are you afraid of me verifying the truth privately?" That sentence reportedly changed everything. Because from that moment onward, palace-connected figures allegedly realized this was no longer just tabloid noise Harry was publicly ignoring. This had crossed into something personal, dangerous, permanent. Because here is the terrifying part nobody around Harry can fully escape. If private verification discussions are truly happening behind the scenes, then the implications become catastrophic no matter what the outcome is. Think about it carefully. If Harry is wrong, his marriage may never recover from the suspicion alone. But if Harry believes there is even a tiny possibility Trevor revealed something truthful, then mentally he is already trapped inside a maze with no safe exit. People close to the royal family reportedly fear this situation could spiral into the ugliest internal crisis since Harry left Britain. Because unlike previous scandals involving interviews, Netflix deals, or or family arguments, this one allegedly touches legitimacy, trust, and the private foundation of Harry's own household. That is why insiders claim certain palace figures are staying unusually quiet right now. Not because they know answers, but because nobody wants to touch a story this radioactive publicly. And Trevor? According to reports, he has gone silent again. That silence is driving Meghan absolutely furious, according to insiders, because now she allegedly cannot predict what comes next. One source described it perfectly. When enemies keep talking, you can fight them. When they suddenly go quiet after dropping a bomb, that's when panic starts. And apparently that panic is now spreading through the Sussex household itself. The truly disturbing part is that people close to Harry claim the alleged DNA verification conversations were never originally about proving whether the children were his. According to whispers now spreading behind palace walls, Harry's deeper fear reportedly became something much worse. He allegedly started wondering whether he had been emotionally managed for years by somebody who always stayed 10 steps ahead of everyone around her. And once that suspicion entered his mind, insiders say every memory inside that marriage suddenly started looking different to him. Because think about the pattern people are now allegedly pointing toward. Trevor reportedly described Meghan as somebody obsessed with controlling narratives long before royalty ever entered the picture. Friends from the Toronto years allegedly remember her rehearsing conversations before events, planning emotional reactions before difficult meetings, even allegedly predicting how certain stories would look publicly before they happened. At the time, people reportedly dismissed it as ambition, Hollywood behavior, survival instincts. But now, Harry allegedly sees those same traits through a completely darker lens. And sources claim one specific moment reportedly shattered him emotionally. It allegedly happened late one night after Trevor's claims exploded online. Harry was reportedly sitting alone scrolling through old interviews Meghan gave during the early years of their relationship. Interviews where she smiled warmly while describing their organic love story, their fairy tale connection, their accidental romance. But according to insiders, Harry suddenly became fixated on how polished every answer sounded, almost too polished. One source claimed he paused one interview halfway through and allegedly whispered, "How much of this was real?" That sentence reportedly terrified the people around him because it showed how deep the damage had already gone. This was no longer about headlines. Harry was reportedly beginning to question the emotional reality of his own marriage itself. And meanwhile, Meghan allegedly became increasingly defensive inside the house. Insiders claim she started monitoring conversations more closely, demanding to know who Harry was speaking to privately and why certain calls were suddenly happening behind closed doors. One rumor even claims Meghan confronted Harry after noticing he had allegedly been communicating with someone connected to London legal circles. That confrontation reportedly turned explosive very quickly. According to whispers, Meghan allegedly accused Harry of becoming exactly like his family. But Harry reportedly fired back with something nobody expected. He allegedly told her the difference was that his family never asked him to blindly ignore obvious questions. And apparently the room went completely silent after that, because buried underneath all this chaos is the one reality nobody can ignore anymore. Harry's entire identity was built around loyalty, absolute loyalty. He defended Meghan against his family, against the press, against public criticism, against lifelong royal relationships that completely collapsed because he believed protecting her mattered more than everything else combined. And now insiders claim he allegedly feels trapped between two horrifying possibilities. Either Trevor is lying and Harry destroyed his own marriage through suspicion, or Trevor was telling pieces of a truth Harry never imagined he would need to investigate. And according to reports, that mental pressure is now consuming him completely. One source close to California social circles described Harry lately as a man walking around emotionally jet-lagged, present physically but mentally somewhere else entirely. Friends allegedly noticed him zoning out during conversations, losing focus mid-sentence, looking exhausted constantly. One person even claimed Harry allegedly asked a terrifying question privately during dinner recently. What if everybody tried warning me and I just refused to hear it? Because suddenly people inside the monarchy allegedly realized something shocking. Harry may finally be revisiting every warning William ever gave him years ago before the wedding, every uncomfortable conversation, every argument that destroyed the brothers completely. And according to palace whispers, that realization has allegedly triggered quiet panic within royal circles, because if Harry emotionally collapses under this pressure, nobody knows what he might publicly reveal next. But perhaps the coldest detail of all involves Trevor himself, because according to insiders, Trevor reportedly never expected Harry to actually begin private verification discussions. He allegedly believed Harry would instantly dismiss everything to protect the marriage publicly. But when whispers began reaching California that Harry was quietly asking legal and medical questions behind closed doors, people close to Trevor reportedly became stunned. One source claimed Trevor's reaction was chillingly simple. He allegedly just leaned back and said, then, deep down, he already knows something isn't right. Because now this entire situation has entered dangerous territory where perception itself becomes catastrophic. Even if nothing is ever publicly proven, even if no tests ever happen, even if no official statements are ever released, the damage may already be irreversible. Why? Because the moment a husband privately starts exploring verification talks inside a marriage, trust has already been ripped apart at its foundation. And insiders claim Meghan allegedly understands that better than anyone right now, which explains why sources said the atmosphere inside Montecito has reportedly become unbearably cold. Staff allegedly avoid eye contact. Conversations stop when Harry enters rooms. Meghan reportedly spends hours isolated on private phone calls while Harry disappears for long drives alone around California trying to clear his mind. But according to whispers, nothing is clearing his mind anymore because Trevor's confession allegedly planted one devastating thought inside Harry that now refuses to leave.